Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Rachel. I'm a school psychologist. I have been for about 1.5 years now, and I post videos every single week on school psych and fashion, so thank you guys for tuning in. So in the past, I've done one more like vague video about just like my overall tips for grad school, and in that I think I included like a couple for like interview tips, but I did get a couple requests just to make a separate video about grad school interview tips. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys 8 or 9 tips that I have. And like I said, I'm a practicing school psych now, so I went on interviews in the summer of 2016. So it has been 5 years since I've been on a grad school interview. So I don't necessarily remember like specific questions that I was asked, but I do remember the gist of my interviews. So I thought I would share with you guys some takeaways that I either did that I think helped me in the interviews, and a couple of things that I wish I had like read up on more or like done a little bit better before going into interviews. And just for reference too, I went on only 3 grad school interviews. Technically I went on 2 interviews because I remember I got called back for 2 and they were both on the exact same day. One was in Massachusetts and one was in Rhode Island, and they were like at the exact same time, so there was nothing I could do. So luckily one of them had an alternative where I had to create a YouTube video answering all the interview questions, and I think that's still on YouTube today, but it's under like another account. So if I can try and find it, I'll link it. I promise it's not the best interview at all, but yeah, so I had to do the YouTube video, which was interesting. And then I went on an interview in Massachusetts and another one in Rhode Island. So technically I went on 2 in-person interviews, which was not a lot, but luckily I got into one of them, so that was good. So the first grad school interview tip that I have for you guys is to make sure you know the reason why you're going into school psychology. Like, that is the #1 question that professors are gonna ask you probably, no matter where you go, is like, why are you interested in pursuing school psych? And a lot of times they're looking for like more passionate answers to make sure like you're actually interested in the field. So just saying like you researched and found school psych online, that's not gonna interest them much, and they're probably gonna not choose you to join their program. So I would say like when you're answering that question, try to relate it to any work or school related experiences that you had during undergrad, and just try and relate like those experiences to realizing your passion for school psych. So with me, I remember for the longest time I thought I wanted to be a marriage and family therapist, and I had that experience, and that was like one thing that made me realize I want to do counseling, but only as like part of the role. And I didn't want to work with adults. I realized that children would be more for me. So those are 2 of the reasons that drew me to school psych, and I mentioned those during the interview. So just trying to relate those experiences to that question will be key. The second interview tip that I have for you guys is to make sure you know the basic roles of a school psych. To be honest, I went into some of these interviews and I didn't realize like how many roles there were of a school psychologist. I'll never forget, after I got into the program, I remember walking in and it was a cognitive assessment class. So I had to take that. I think that was my very first class, and I had no idea what that meant. So I like didn't even know that school psychs did cognitive testing before I went on interviews. So I would say definitely just research the basic things that school psychs do, and it's pretty much assessment, consultation, and intervention. Those are the main 3 roles of school psych. So I would say just make sure you have a basic understanding of what school psychs do, just so you can talk about it more with the professors and like show your knowledge of it more. Okay, the third interview tip that I have is when they say tell me about yourself, because I feel like that's also a really common question. Make sure you don't just reiterate every single thing that's on your resume, because like they already have that in front of them, so they want to hear a little bit extra, like maybe about what you learned from those work experiences or how you felt about them, and like how it led you to school psychology. They kind of want more of like a summary rather than just like repeating everything off your resume. Okay, so the next interview tip that I have is make sure that you have a notebook with you with at least like, I don't know, I would say anywhere from 3 to 5 questions that you could potentially ask them about the program. So one thing you might want to ask is like, how many students do they accept? Another important one is, do you have to find your own practicum and internship experiences. For my grad school program, the professors chose the practicum and internship sites for us, so I never had to like undergo the stress of finding my own internship. I can't even imagine that. But that's definitely another good question to ask. So definitely generate some questions that you want answers to, and it's gonna make you look really good because the professor is gonna think that you came really prepared. So the next interview tip that I have for you guys, and this one I feel like is pretty important and a lot of people don't really ever say it, but make sure that when you're talking with the professor, like you might have an individual interview with them, or you might be interviewed by multiple professors, or you might be in like a group of other kids with one, but regardless of how it goes, try to get a feel for how the professor is, or professors. Like you wanna make sure that you're gonna get along with them and that you feel they're approachable and that they wanna help you and want the best for you. There was only 4 main professors for my school psych program, so we typically had them every single year, with the exception of like some adjunct professors. So you wanna make sure that you're gonna get along with them and that you feel comfortable around them and feel again that they're gonna be approachable and able to help you, because you're gonna have these professors for the next 2 to 3 years. So that is definitely key. Like if you don't feel comfortable and you feel like they're trying to intimidate you or something, that's probably not the best program for you to join. This next interview tip, this one definitely, I could have had somebody say this to me when I was doing my grad school interviews. So again, I only went on 2. In the Rhode Island interview, there was me and 2 other potential candidates trying to get into the program and 3 professors there. So it was a one-on-one ratio and we each had individual interviews. It was great. And then I went to the Massachusetts interview. I'm not gonna name the school, but it was the worst experience ever. There was 60 candidates and they split us into groups of 10. And each group had 1 professor and they just asked 2 questions and you went around and answered. It was so anxiety provoking and I just like got so in my head. So the tip that I have for you guys is if you're in a group interview format, just try to zone the rest of the candidates out. It depends who you are, but like if you're one to compare yourself like I am, try and zone them out. Don't listen to their answers fully. Just like focus on how you're gonna prep your answer once it's your turn. So just try not to pay too much attention to these other candidates, because then you're gonna get really nervous, get in your head, and then it's gonna show. Okay, so the next interview tip that I have for you guys is to research about the program and the professors before you get to the interview. So for example, if you guys want to know like the research interest behind each professor, it'll probably be like a description about the professor and their research interest, so you can always like say that at the interview, be like, I noticed that you're really interested in like trauma-informed practice and that's something that I want to research in the future. So just knowing that you did research on the program definitely shows more of an interest, and the professors are definitely going to take a liking to you. And the last tip that I have for you guys is to always follow up once the interview is done. So after the interview is done, you want to make sure that you remember the name of the professor or professors that interviewed you, and just shoot them an email thanking them for the interview and just again expressing like your interest in the program. That'll definitely help you to stand out a little bit and get them to remember you, especially if they're interviewing a lot of people for the program. Like that's gonna help you stand out just a little bit more. So I hope you guys enjoyed these few tips about how to better prepare for grad school interviews. Again, it has been so long since I've been on a grad school interview, so I hope that some of these are helpful for you guys. Give this video a thumbs up down below if you liked it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand